Welcome to the Uptown Community Podcast, where we see what we can learn, who we can get to know, and if we can understand each other and our neighborhood a little bit more.
We thank the early friends of the Uptown Community Podcast, Papa Ray's and the Uptown Lounge.
All right, let's go ahead and start.
Okay.
I am Ben. This is the Uptown Community Podcast. And who do I have the pleasure of talking with today?
Okay, yeah, my name is Patti Nakai. I'm the minister at the Buddhist Temple of Chicago.
The Buddhist Temple of Chicago. And that is, where is that? Chicago.
Yeah, 1151 West Leland, just about 4 blocks from here, not too far, yeah.
And that puts us in Uptown, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We're at in the the Preston Bradley building
Mhm.
and the Preston Bradley Center, I should say. We are in the studio where socially distanced, and we chose one of the warmer days of the year, and said before we set up a time, and you wanted to get your morning walk in. Did you do that?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't live in Uptown.
Right.
So your morning walk is elsewhere, but you do you have some walks around here that you enjoy?
No, I do walk around, to get something to eat or pick up coffee. So it's kind of my way to look around the neighborhood to see what's going on.
Yeah, it's pretty unique where the Buddhist temple is located. That it's quiet, but it's only 1 block away from Broadway, which has lots and lots of different things to do.
Yeah, Broadway, or sometimes I go down Wilson, so.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, it's very uniquely placed between Wilson and Lawrence, and 1 block away from Broadway, but yet it's so quiet and pretty peaceful there. You like that location?
Yeah, we've been at that location since the mid-50s. The temple actually started in Hyde Park in 1944, but they were being pushed out of there by urban renewal. And so since a lot of the member families were moving to the north side, they decided to come to Uptown in the mid-50s. So.
Okay. I think we'll kind of get into more specifics of Buddhism as we get into some of the more cognitive aspects of understanding. But on the surface, Buddhism, there's images that people associate with Buddhism. What are some images that you hope people walk away seeing images? What are the most prominent ones you think?
Well, in the Buddhist statues, they try to evoke a sense of peace, a sense of compassion, those kind of attributes. So that's why you said the image is just a focus for us to make those feelings arise in us, to aspire toward that kind of peace and compassion.
Yeah, images of the Buddha, and it's different. I think we should get it out of the way sooner rather than later, that the Buddha is different than like a disciple or something that has divine energy behind it. That the notion of the Buddha being a divine element, is that appropriate in Buddhism?
Well, actually, there's a wide range of beliefs, among Buddhists.
Okay.
So There are, I think, some groups that do attribute a amount of divinity to
Okay.
the historic Buddha, but our temple comes from a more, I would call, progressive tradition or lineage, where we believe it's easier for us to relate to the Buddha if we see him as a human being just like ourselves.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody yesterday about come as you are, different churches, and the Buddhist temple of Chicago is definitely somewhere that is pretty welcoming. And I guess we can kind of get into some of the more complex aspects of understanding with traditions within Buddhism. Not only are there images associated with particular religions, but then there are traditions associated with different religions. I guess holidays. I don't think there's. Can you think of anything in Buddhist calendar?
Yeah, there's a big variance because the southern tradition of Buddhism, like India, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, they follow the lunar calendar. So their days are based on, let's say the birth of the Buddha is based on the lunar calendar date. So, like Chinese New Year's is determined by the lunar calendar, not the Western calendar.
Okay.
But then in Japan, they pretty much switched most of the dates to the, what do you call Gregorian? What are we on, the Gregorian calendar?
Yeah.
To match up with the Western calendar. So that's why there's a little bit of a date.
Yeah. So
dates are off.
then let's I guess we can launch into history of where did you grow up?
Oh, okay. My history. I was born in Chicago when my parents lived on the South Side, like many Japanese Americans getting out of the camp. Even when the war was going on, they pretty much settled on the South Side. So that's why our temple started on Hyde Park. Then that's where my parents lived. But not too long after I was born, they moved to Lakeview. So I tell people I grew up in the shadow of Wrigley Field, but they didn't call it Wrigleyville in those days. We just knew it was Lakeview. So that's where I went to my grade school. Then my father's job got transferred to Minnesota, so I did my high school and graduated from University of Minnesota. But I always missed Chicago, so every time I went away from Chicago, I ended up coming back. So after working in Minneapolis, I came back to Chicago for a while. Then I went to study Buddhism in Japan, but instead of coming back to Chicago right away, I went to LA for 8 years and then came back to Chicago. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right. Was Uptown in your experiences in Chicago?
Right. So after I moved back to Chicago from being in Minnesota, I gradually ended up working for what was called the Bank of Chicago on Wilson. So I was working there, and I didn't live too far away near Clark and Clark and Montreal. I lived around there, so I was dealing with Uptown as part of my life and my working life, but also I was tending the Buddhist temple at that time. So I was in Uptown pretty much 6 days a week.
Okay.
And so and this was in the late 70s, early 80s, so I saw some of the changes that was going on at that time, where they were dumping people from the institutional mental health institutions. I don't know, well, that's maybe before your time, but that was a big phenomenon that was happening in Uptown at that time.
Okay. And that was before you went off, before you went to Japan?
You're right, yeah. So I was just attending the temple as a member, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Had you imagined that you would be back in Uptown as the Reverend of the Buddhist Temple of Chicago?
Not really.
Not really.
But when I was in LA, I did get ordained while I was in Japan studying, but I chose to work in LA because the minister who was there used to be in Chicago. So I felt very close to him and worked with him. But then I missed Chicago And also, the temple was going through some transitions, and I felt I could play a role in what the temple was going through. So that was 1995. I moved back to Chicago from Los Angeles.
Let's actually get into we talked about connecting parts of your life. You were in Uptown before, and that then you had kind of went off to continue Buddhist studies. Now you're in Uptown again at that temple. So your life has kind of come full circle, not only starting in Chicago and coming back to Chicago, but also at the Buddhist temple. Kind of come back home. Did you
Yeah, I guess in a
consider
way,
that
yeah.
home when you were
Yeah, I
growing?
guess so, because that was the place where I encountered Buddhism in a way that was very decisive. So I do consider it kind of my spiritual home for that reason.
Was that something that you grew up with?
So my dad and his parents were Buddhists, and actually that's the temple they went to. But my mother had her way, and that's why we were raised in
Okay.
Presbyterian. But then when I was church shopping, like a lot of young people do after college, I just found the Buddhist temple of Chicago. Like I said, I had that decisive experience that this was where I wanted to be and be part of that tradition.
Yeah, I think that it's a good community to be a part of, and I'm a part of that community. And then, so we're at the Preston Bradley Center, where there is the religious organization here is the People's Church of Chicago, and you said that. The Buddhist temple started in Hyde Park, and then that moved in the 50s. And there was some relationships between the Buddhist temple and People's Church.
Right. So I don't have the exact details, but the story I often heard was this was when the temple, I think, was starting off in Hyde Park, that Preston Bradley actually mentioned the temple on the radio show and told Chicagoans to please welcome the Buddhists. And this is a time when, if it happened in 1944, the war is still going on. So that's pretty amazing if it happened then, that he asked, the general city population to welcome the Buddhists. And then he became good friends with the founding minister, Reverend Gyome Kwose, and they started a pulpit exchange. And so we still do that tradition now at our temple on the last Sunday of February. It used to be called Brotherhood Sunday, where we invite somebody from another religion to speak. But now I call it Interfaith Sunday. But one of the first people, when I was in charge of it, that I invited was Reverend Jean Darling, because I wanted, she was definitely somebody to follow in the footsteps of Preston Bradley, someone from People's Church to speak with us. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it's kind of fallen off, especially now as there's more difficulties to coordinate in community gatherings. But that would be a good thing to resurrect. Be a little bit explicit for listening audience that Jean was the previous pastor of People's Church. I'm not sure when she started exactly, but she's since retired. But yeah, she had many community outreach activities that she was a part of and an advocate for. And now with the pandemic, it's harder to think about those community relationships that have existed. Yeah. So I was thinking too about Jean. Thinking about Jean, she was had kind of a Jewish background and more Unitarian background in the People's Church. And so I was wondering if there was anything that she talked about. She was more accessible to the Unitarian language. And so some of that language, the UU language, they actually start with 7 principles. And I sent something over last night. It might have been too late.
No, I had a chance to read it. Yeah.
Okay. Of the 7 principles, but really the first 3 or 4 principles seem like they are reminiscent of some Buddhist ideals and a commitment to wellness, commitment to well-being, and then the relationship and letting relationships flourish between people. Does that have some similar ideas in Buddhism?
Yeah, I think, well, I as an individual would agree with those first 4 principles. They don't fit exactly with, Buddhist philosophy or outlook. I mean, somewhat they are related. But one of the big differences is UU was created from the Unitarian and the Universalist, which were still religions that were formed, I would say, after the American Revolution and the French Revolution, when ideas of justice and fairness were more in the air than when the Buddhist time or most of the Asian philosophers that follow in the Buddhist footsteps. So that's something Buddhism is still struggling with. How do we, even though our literature doesn't talk about justice so much, how do we deal with those concepts now? That's not really part of our, liturgy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Whereas you, since you've developed during this time of those ideas, I could see why they're so strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is some benefits that Unitarian Universalists have of putting those down on paper. I think there's lots of history of people being organized. The founding fathers, for example, have some of those tendencies as Unitarian Universalist, or it wasn't called Universalist at the time, I don't think, but how humanism and transcendentalism shared some of those properties in being well defined. So I guess there is some explicit language that I remember from some of the messages at the Buddhist temple, and the one that really wanted me or got me wanting to do a sit down conversation with you was the conversation about the role of Buddhas. That there, and I don't know if this is traditional to all Buddhist traditions, but that Buddhas keep reoccurring, and they recur many times in someone's life. Or is that true?
Oh, yeah, I get it. It's the idea that we start to appreciate people in our lives as Buddhas, that we recognize their wisdom, and we sometimes it takes hindsight before we realize even their opposition to us was leading us towards spiritual development. So so the idea is not just the one Buddha, the one guy way back in India achieved enlightenment, but the phenomenon of people achieving the state of selflessness continues throughout history, and today there are probably much more people in that category, or that can be seen in that category, than we really recognize.
there's a little bit of language
Mhm.
that you had used there about thinking of people as Buddhas.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have the hard and fast language of a particular role.
Mm.
Is that true?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so I mean when I talk about Buddhas or meaning awakened ones, that's really the
Yeah.
what the word means. Those people who have awakened to their own the reality of themselves to the point that they can now act in the world very selflessly, and so that's how I would define Buddhas. Those who have awakened to the point that they can leave their self behind and just do what got to be done. you know.
As we continue our conversation, 'cause it is an ongoing process too. I don't think we can really, even if we consider ourselves to have achieved some qualities of enlightenment, then we're not automatically a Buddha. And you're saying too that it's not a hard and fast definition of a Buddhist. I think that's kind of applicable to Christian notions of God, and I'm sure there's some traditions that would say that's blasphemy, but and I'm sure there are lots of Buddhist traditions that say it is hard and fast, have a divine qualities. We have observed, we've reflected, we've interpreted and made different ideas and saw what existed in our different ideas. But with the last step, it is moving forward, and we were talking about some of the notions that you see at the Buddhist temple. Yesterday was the meditation. What do you lead in the meditations on Tuesdays?
Yeah, I just call it midday mindfulness or something like that.
Okay.
Mindful midday, just to take a break in the middle of the day. We do a brief 10-minute meditation. We do some stretching exercises, and then go back to a brief meditation, and then sharing at the end. I just wanted to make it especially during this time. It's just a nice way to connect with some of the people who are interested, but not a real long thing. It's just meant to be a little break. And it's been real helpful for me because just like everyone else, I'm going through a lot of upheavals, and to take that break has been very nice. And I guess I wanted to put in a plug for UU that our temple gets a lot of phone calls from people all over the country looking for a Buddhist temple, and sometimes they're just located in an area where there's hardly any Asian population. So normally, if there's a lot of Asians, you could find a Buddhist temple somewhere. But I always tell them go find a UU church, especially if you're interested in meditation, because I believe UU people, a lot of the churches actually have meditation practice, which so that's the Buddhist temples just aren't in every town and city and state, even state, but at least I think UU is quite. I think you have like 1,000 congregations, I read, yeah, so it's pretty widespread. So in that case, I do see a connection that because of the meditative practice, it's
Right. Yeah. The day-to-day practical use of the different faiths as we go forward in that fourth level. It is kind of practical. That stretching is very practical.
Okay.
Trying to do stretching
Okay.
this morning. And very, very good to have an explicit time during the day to try to do some stretching, and the midday mindfulness is having elements of meditation, but it's just 5 minute
Mhm.
5 minute meditation right on
Oh,
the
10
on
minutes
Tuesday.
each. Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you recommend?
Well, I usually tell people to get the physical benefits of meditation. 15 is ideal because then your body starts to go into its rhythms more. But the reason I'm doing 10 minutes for this midday thing is just it's just hard to sit still nowadays. It's really a time of everybody's very, agitated. So 10 minutes is good. It's not ideal, but it's a start. It's a break. I call it a break for us to take a break from our anxieties for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, meditation is one thing that started me coming here, and then
Mhm.
started going to the Buddhist temple as something with therapeutic aspects to
Right.
it, and especially qigong and of a stretching method that has elements of a therapeutic awareness of body and moving through different movements.
Mhm.
Kind of like Tai Chi. Is
Right.
it the Japanese version of
Oh
Tai
no, that's
Chi?
a Chinese. Qigong is Chinese, but it's like
Okay.
taking separate moves from Tai Chi and just making it into separate exercises.
Okay.
But yeah, so I always say the religious part of it is to remind people that we do these things, meditating and even stretching, to move our body energy around. It's still done should be done with a heart that's open towards all beings. You're not just doing this for yourself, but you're doing it in together with all beings. And that's why I always tell people when they when our regular meditation sessions, I said, this is not spa meditation. This is not, you're totally just for your own benefit. The things we do at the Buddhist temple is for opening your heart. And that goes to that first principle, to respect all beings. First principle, your UU principle that you sent in. So to get wrapped up in yourself is to forget that. Forget the dignity of all beings. But to open your heart is to remember that.
Yeah, and that's something that's at the some of the later principles in Unitarian Universalists of seeing unity around you and how people are connected.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is meditation and being intentional about seeing some kind of connection.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of seems like it comes in levels, that it's getting in a pattern of breathing and having your breathing let you connect, and see the connection and unity of all beings. I think that is definitely something that connects. I hope every faith.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to be associated with any faith that does not keep that ideal So I think that's something that influences our church's decisions to have community events. And I think those community events at the Buddhist Temple of Chicago and People's Church, we had some watercolor events, and that was kind of therapeutic. Maybe not the same intentional unity that is expressed in some of the deeper meditations. I think it takes longer than 5 or 10 minutes for me to really have those notions freely. I think it's okay to draw those thoughts up, but then you kind of move on to the next thought. But to let that flow within you of a connection, I think that takes some time. I feel that there's a deeper meditation, but any bit helps. So I like the Tuesday event too. It's midday mindfulness.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah. And then Tuesday it'll be in September. It'll be more of Tai Chi.
Right, there'll be the Qigong Tai Chi class on Tuesdays. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of activities to look forward to, and we'll try to be active in posting those. I should be better at that, on putting that on the Preston Bradley Facebook and Uptown Community Podcast Facebook. Buddhist Temple of Chicago, that's on Facebook.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so most of our activities are posted there to update information.
Yeah. And for the time that I've known you, you've always been really active in keeping those ongoing, and even during the pandemic. We had the midday mindfulness on Zoom for a while,
Right.
and it's still ongoing for some people that don't want to be in person. I thought they did garbage on Monday. All right. All right. So we'll get a thank you in while I think they're between banging garbage cans around. Thank you, Patti, for joining us on the Uptown Community Podcast. Enjoyed meeting you, and I've enjoyed being a member of the Buddhist Temple of Chicago, and consider you a Buddha, or having elements of being being a Buddha in my life. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's very much honored to participate in this project, because People's Church, when it comes to activities in Uptown, you really have been a beacon for the community and serving those, especially those in need. So it's very much an honor to be invited. Thank you.
And a big thank you for in the Buddhist temple the last time for the message that you had mentioned, the Uptown Community Podcast. Thank you for doing that. That's great. All right. Getting louder now.
The Uptown Community Podcast is supported with a grant from the Unitarian Universalist Funding Program.
As a project of People's Church,
The Uptown Community Podcast celebrates creativity, love, and humanity.